No.
Okay, yes. Sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Baruch Boy B'Shem Irgin Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Smith Shlishis on Shir Klali B'Dinei Seuda Shlishis. The do's and don'ts of Seuda Shlishis. Tabs great Shlishis sponsoring Shir Kol Irgin Shir Torah 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com.
We recently had an interesting shaila. I was in a hotel for a convention for Shabbos, and they give a lot to eat. And someone asked me right after Mincha, he has no appetite for shaloshseudos. He could eat it, he'll have no einig. Whatever I say, he'll do. So the question was, should he exert himself and eat, or like he told me, I'd rather go learn from a cheshbon. And the truth is, this is a game when people have a Shabbos simcha and they finish late, or even during the summer when we have a longer afternoon, but some people, late afternoon, they have a lavish einik Shabbos and they eat various foods, and it comes to the shaloshseudos, I have no appetite. So the question is there any heta, or is there maybe the chiyuv is only when you enjoy the seudah? Maybe if you don't enjoy it, don't bother eating. But as we'll see, this touches upon many major yesodis in the halachos of seudah Shlishis b'chlal. First of all, is there a chiyuv pas? Can you ever use cake? Are any different men or women? What's the earliest, what's the latest time to eat? So as we see, there's a beautiful sugya, which really is the insight into what shaloshseudos is all about. The Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Yud Zayin says, Kama seudas chayav adam lechol b'Shabbos. Now this is not a typical Gemara. The Gemara makes a statement. Here the Gemara has a question and answer format, which needs a hesba. Why? But how many seudos you chayav to eat? Shalosh. And the Gemara marshaled the pasuk we just learned yesterday in Parashat B'Shalach. It says 3 times hayoim. So therefore you have to have 3 seudos on Shabbos. And this is why there are shittas that hold that the 3 seudos on Shabbos are deraisa. It's based on a pasuk, 3 hayoims. But more importantly for us, there's absolutely no difference in the 3rd seudah and the first 2. It's the same hayoim for the 3rd like the 1st and 2nd. And there's also Gemara in Brachos, Mem Tessa, Madmeis, you look in Taisis, the Maskei Yiboy, that's Befeirish, that based on the pasuk, on the Gemara, there's no chilik 3rd or 1st and 2nd. However, the next blot in Shabbos, Kuf Yud Ches, we get a mixed message. So up to Gemara, Rabbi Yosi said, Yichelki mi oichlei shaloshseudos b'Shabbos. I would love to be from a Zayid that eats 3 seudos on Shabbos. What's the big deal? Don't we all? You don't say, I would love to be from a tefillin lega. Everybody wears tefillin. You say, I would love to be a ba'abid or a shoyvavimid. No? Okay, I can understand. Because not everybody does it. But what's that? I want to have a chelik in eating 3 seudos. More so, the Gemara says, Rav Nachman said, Teisili, I want to get special schar because I had all 3 seudos on Shabbos. So Tosfos in Bechoros, Dav Beis Amud Beis picks up on this. And Tosfos quotes Rabbeinu Tam. Now please remember, Rabbeinu Tam is a very main part of today's shir. We're going to have a beautiful Lishitasai. But Rabbeinu Tam says, from this Gemara in Shabbos, it's clear that people were not niza in having the 3 seudos. Teisili is some type of extraordinary madrega. Okay, so please note the word Rabbeinu Tam, but what's really perplexing is what's going on here. Kuf Yud Zayin, it's mashma, it's a deraisa, all 3 seudos. Kuf Yud Ches, it's not a chiyuv, and people didn't do it. Hayitach, people didn't do what they had to do. So if you look at Tosfos and Pesachim Kuf Aleph, Tosfos introduces a new option. Zok Tosfos, maybe targima, which we'll soon see, is either cake or meat and fish or maybe Paris. But Zok Tosfos, it's possible that if targima helps, if there's no chiyuv pas, it's only by seudah Shlishis, but not by the first 2 seudos, which are the Ikka Kavod Shabbos. So Tosfos is the first, to my knowledge, that makes a difference in the third seudah and the first two. That maybe you could be yotzeh the third seudah with targima, which is cake, or other options. And it's important to mention, Rabbeinu Tam is quoted in a few places that also said this. That cake doesn't work for the first two seudas, but maybe for the third seudah. But the question is, where do you get this chiluk from? The Gemara learns from the pasuk 3 hayoms, there's no difference first or third. So here we come to an extremely important yesod. And that is that really in halacha, all agree there's no difference first, second, or third. But the third seudah is at risk, especially during the winter. Because after you have a big seudah Shabbos by day, you have no appetite to eat. And sometimes a person is worried, maybe I'm talking about achila gasa. Now that's a very bad thing to do. Do you know that the Magen Avram and Rav and Simon Tov Ayin Vav says if a person eats afikoim and achila gasa, he's not yotzeh the mitzvah. But a bigger chiddush, based on a Gemara, in Shulchan Aruch Tov Reish Yud Beis Si Vav, if a person ate until the last moment of Yom Kippur, and then he came Yom Kippur, a strange person, he ate more, if it's an achila gasa, he's not oiva achilas Yom Kippur. You're talking about an isaf karis where mekel because not achila, because achila gasa. Wow, achila gasa is not an achila. It's pashit. If a person does eat achila gasa, you don't make a bracha, or you don't because it's not an achila. And there's a lot to say how far we have to stay away from achila gasa, but suffice to say what the Rambam says in Hechadei is Daled Yudalid, that most chaylim, most chalayim, most sicknesses come from achila meruba. You know, it's interesting that the Rambam was vachavan to our times. Someone showed me a study that the second most preventable cause of death in America is overeating. Could you imagine? A person eats, like Rapam said once, he digs his grave with his own teeth. He eats too much. And the Rambam said it a long time ago. Roiv of the sicknesses come from overeating. The Shlosh says a person that eats too much is on 3 Yisurim. But to this chashavam, we don't have to stress that. But the question now is, for someone that ate too much by the day, now maybe shaloshseudos, not only it's not a mitzvah, maybe it's achila gasa. And the Levush in our Simon Reish Sadik Aleph Siv Gimel says beferish, if a person ate shaloshseudos and it was achila gasa, he wasted his time. He's not yotzeh. So the question is, so what's the guidelines? When is it achila gasa? Or when is it just that and no appetite? So listen to our Rabbeinu Tam, second Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam is in Nozichav Gimel, and Rabbeinu Tam wonders that we know achila gasa is not an achila. So what does that mean? So Rabbeinu Tam says there are 2 achilas gasas. The first is nafshei kotz b'achila miroiv savai. He finds it repulsive. He cannot eat. How do you do it? Okay, akasha v'maisa, but he does. That's not an achila, not on Yom Kippur, not for afikoimin, not for seudah Shlishis. But v'hachas of Rabbeinu Tam, she'ein nafshei kotz, ela she'ein roiv lechol l'teyavai. He doesn't have an appetite. But you tell him eat, he could eat. He's not repulsive, but he has no appetite. Zok Rabbeinu Tam, that second level is not achila gasa. What then is it? It's just he has no appetite. So now we see this second Rabbeinu Tam, that there are 2 levels. Achila gasa is no mitzvah at all. It's an aveir, in fact. But someone that has no appetite, it's an achila, but he has no appetite. Oh. Oy bazoi, our question, the person said, I could eat, but I have no appetite. What should we tell him? Eat. Who said you have to have oinig? And the Mechaba Bayos Reis Sadik Aleph Aleph, Yizah Ma'oy L'kayim Seudah Shlishis, V'af Musaveya Yachal L'kayim Oyse B'Kebeya. You can't eat too much. Eat a kebeya, will soon see the significance. Mechaba then adds, Im Ef Sheklal Lechoil, no, don't force yourself, because that might be achila gasa. But the Mechaber says if you could eat, you could be mekayim the mitzvah. So evidently, The fact that he has no appetite is not a heter. He still has the mitzvah of seudah Shabbos. And if you look in Reish Peiches Siv Beis, the Machab again says, if someone finds the eating to be hezek, don't eat. But our question, he has no appetite to eat, so eat anyhow, l'shem shemayim. It's not a chiluk as like Rabbeinu Tam. But here comes the last piece of the puzzle, the third Rabbeinu Tam. Listen to this beautiful l'shitosai. The Or Zarua, one of the Rishonim, halachos Shabbos, Siman Nun Beis, says the following chiddush in the name of Rabbeinu Tam. If someone has a seudah to eat, like a seudah Shlishis, and he's not hungry, then he doesn't have to eat shaloshseudos. Because the reason why we eat is als einig, and it's not einig. The kach hayinoyeg Rabbeinu Tam, that when he was afraid that he didn't enjoy the seudah Shlishis, he wouldn't eat. What did he do? Listen to this. He would take mine targima. Cake or other sweets, we'll soon see. And Toises and Brachos, Mamtes Amid Beis, also quotes Rabbeinu Tam that sometimes use cake as an option. So, Shimu Sechi Nafshechem. What we said from the Shulchan Aruch, that if you have no appetite to eat, you're mechuyev to eat, that's the Shulchan Aruch. 2 places, no doubt about it. But Rabbeinu Tam himself said if there's no einig, he didn't eat shaloshseudos. Now, why is cake better? Because for cake, a person has an appetite. Zok de chidah in machzik bracha, that's the pshat. Really, there's a chiyuv to eat 3 seudos of pas. Rab Nachman had said tasily at one schar, because he was a very wealthy person. He was a chassid b'nei nesiyah, and he had a big seudah, and he could have eaten the seudah l'shem shemayim and come to the seudah Shlishis I can't eat, but he was focused. He ate minimally and saved room for shaloshseudos. So he got schar for chacham eina b'roishai and not overeating. But what we do see, according to Rabbeinu Tam, if you have no appetite, then you're part of shaloshseudos. And I was thinking, there's another beautiful l'shitase, the Or Zarua, the Das Torah in Reish Ayin Daled, at the end quotes this Or Zarua, that says, maybe that's the reason why we don't make a bracha on seudah Shabbos. You make a bracha on every mitzvah, even on the Rabbanan. But then again, a person might make a bracha on the third seudah and not enjoy it. Then he has no mitzvah, so it's a bracha of Atala. Rabbi say, listen to this. It's very possible, there's another pshat, and this makes all the Rabbeinu Tam shtim kemin chayma. Rabbeinu Tam held that if you don't enjoy it, you're not makayim the mitzvah. That's the same Rabbeinu Tam in Bechayros that says people didn't eat seudah Shlishis. Why? Because they had winter Shabbos, they had big einig Shabbos during the summer, and they came to the seudah Shlishis, I'm stuffed. So, it's possible the Rabbeinu Tam l'shitasai acknowledged many didn't eat shaloshseudos. And that I saw in the Shevet HaKosi, Chelik Beis, Kuf Chaf Aleph. But I want to add even more so. Since Rabbeinu Tam held if you have no appetite, you're not yoitza, the same Rabbeinu Tam said, but I have an eitzah for you. Eat something that you will enjoy. Because you have no appetite to eat challah, but a good piece of cake you could manage. So the point is that the double chiddush is all the Rabbeinu Tam l'shitasai. Be'emes, there's no difference third or first seudah. The chiyuv is passing all 3 seudas. But if you can't eat, what should you do? You shouldn't have came to this situation, but you can't eat. So Rabbeinu Tam improvised. Try cake. And the emphasis, what I'm telling you, is not my chiddush, it's a Farish Gemara. You know, you probably have it with your children or grandchildren. You say, "Yo, have some delicious broccoli." And the child says, "Broccoli? Oh, I'm full. It's a chilagasa." Okay, good. A minute later, you bring out dessert, and he wants doubles. So I thought you're full. So the child, this little child, the grace of Machadish says, "I have a special compartment in my stomach for dessert." Right? It's not your child's chiddush. It's a Gemara in Megillah that Daf Yomi learned not long ago. Daf Zayin Beis Ravchel B'Sima Shchiach. There's a special room for sweet things. And don't think this is just drush. Reis Apella, in Tov Reish Yud Beis Si Vav, in that shreklich halacha, a person that ate a Yom Kippur, achila gasa, he's not oiva because not an achila. The Ramah says, but if he ate sweet foods, he is oiva. Because even if he's holding by achila gasa, there's room for sweets. So I was thinking, what a beautiful Rabbeinu Tam Shitosai. Rabbeinu Tam, not like the Shulchan Aruch, holds that if there's no einig, you're not makayim the mitzvah. And taka many people chose not to eat seudah Shlishis. That's Rabbeinu Tam and Bechoros. But he gave an eitzah. He gave the eitzah that I told you that places in brachas and other places. If you eat a sweet food and you'll enjoy it, so you have the mitzvah. You don't have the optimum mitzvah because you don't eat pas, but at least you could eat seudah Shlishis. But this is not l'halacha l'maisa. The Mechaber says that if as long as you could eat, there's not achila gasa, you have to wash. So that means our shayla, the person says, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. I could wash and bench. It's not achila gasa, but I have no appetite. So according to Benu Tam Taka, don't bother. But the Mechaber says twice, even without an appetite, eat as long as not achila gasa. So I told the person is try to get a sweet chalo. Try if you like matzah better. Or I told them it's not a hamish eitzah, but it's a good eitzah. Take some peanut butter and jelly, put it onto your challah, and then it's sweet. You'll enjoy it. So at least you're using the eitzah of a gemara. But of course, the best eitzah would be chacham eina b'reishay, and don't overeat. But the point is that cake works is only for seudah Shlishis, and only because there's no other choice. Now I saw Rav Vosna in Chelik Aleph Siman and Zayin. Someone asked him an interesting shayla. He ate in shul kiddush Rabbah, and he was emphasis on the Rabbah part. He made an alamichya. Then he came up and had a seudah Shabbos. So he decided he has no appetite to eat for shaloshseudos for sure. He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have 3 seudas. Friday night, 1 seudah. Kiddush Rabbah, Sheneimol is a seudah. And then my day seudah is seudah Shlishis. So Rav Vosna says it doesn't work. If cake does work, like Rabbeinu Tam, it's only with the 3rd seudah. And Rav Vosna says the chiddush is really a toisus. He says, it says 3 times hayoim. Well, it gives you the right to say that there's a cake is good for even the 3rd seudah. So must be that the 3rd seudah is to show covered Shabbos. Every Shabbos, every day I have 2 seudas. Shabbos, I have to show covered Shabbos, and that's the 3rd seudah. So maybe Rabbeinu Tam held, divide it's only to show covered Shabbos, cake is also enough. You're doing something special. But you can't be yaitza the 2nd seudah with cake. The point only is that mi'ikad din, I'll quote the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch, that you have to have 3 seudas of pas. If someone was not living chacham eina b'reishay, or better yet, chacham eina b'kreisay, and he came the 3rd seudah, I have no appetite, try to find an appetite. And if you can't, b'diavad cake is acceptable, but it's not the right thing. Targima, the Shulchan Aruch and Sif Hey, based on the Beis Yosef, of course, that the best thing is to have mezainis products. And especially cake is a suffix pas, it's even better. If you can't handle cake, basar v'dagim, or minimally, like some shitas, even fruit. But the Yisayid Adavar is, the starting point is, what people think, shaloshseudos, no chiyav to wash, nah, it's not true. No one says that. Even Rabbeinu Tam, that ate cake, was only because if he couldn't eat pas. So the best eitzah is to avoid even level number 2 of no appetite. You know, it's interesting, there's a Hainu de Amri Yinchi, the Welt sagt a guten Wort, that we call the 3rd seudah shaloshseudos. And that's wrong. The Gemara speaks about you have to eat 3 seudas, all 3. But why do we call Shabbos afternoon seudah shaloshseudos? Is 1 seudah. But you know, there's a bigger pliya. The Mechaber Reish Ayin Daled speaks about the first 2 seudas, and Reish Sadak Aleph is our inyan of seudah Shlishis. You know what he calls it? Din shaloshseudos. It's not true. It's not shaloshseudos. So the Welt says a word, and Bemis the Chidah Machzik Bracha says it, that the first seudah, he says, l'kavod Shabbos, a fleet in the Himmel. Fine, maskim. 2nd seudah, l'kavod Shabbos. Yeah. Come the 3rd seudah, I can't look at food. What happened? Parents says, maybe the first two seudas will cover the boroch. Pardon me. It's not nice, but it might be true. So where do you see Lamafreya that the three seudas were the covered Shabbos? If he lives with a cheshbon and the third seudah is also kedasa kedin. Zok the machzik bracha. That's why the Mechaba begins an unusual lashon. Yazal ma'oy l'kayim seudah Shlishis and chacham eine beroishay. Because this is a gilui in how authentic the first two seudas are. But this we could live with. The B'nayahu, that's the Ben Yehoyada, in the first part of the Sefer, on our sugi in Shabbos Kuf Yud Zayin, he wonders why. Every Gemara says halachos. Why this Gemara says, Kam Seudas Chayiv Adam Lechol Sholosh. Zok the Ben Ish Chai, because if you don't have all three, you're not Yaitze any. How much do you, and the Gemara is very literal. Kam Seudas Chayiv Adam Lechol, 3. You only ate 2 and the third one, you couldn't look at food, you're not Yaitze any. I hope we don't pass him like this. But it reads the Gemara very nicely. But it's interesting, let's be more positive. It was so inspiring. 6 months ago we had Pesach Shechal B'Shabbos, and people woke up early and they struggled to have 2 seudas in the morning, and people walked around the block. It looked like a walkathon. Everybody's walking around. Even though, as we'll soon see, to eat before Chatzos, like Moshit, is not even Yoitza. So why are people going so to the extent of eating 2 seudas a pas Erev Pesach for one shita? No, it comes a regular Shabbos, a winter Shabbos. It's taka and a soyed, but do it right. Rabbi Chaim Falaji says, I could prove it to you. This is lashon that the third seudah is the ikka. How do I know? Yeshli raya gedoyla miyayet sahara, because Yitzhar makes so many reasons not to have third seudah. But the embassy, Abu Draham, one of the Rishonim in Amud Reish Aleph in the New Prince, he has a whole different outlook. And he says the 3 seudas are to train ourselves to eat properly. Because you have to eat Friday night. Okay, Shabbos day you have to eat a big seudah, and same for shaloshseudos. So you're eating with control. And he says, therefore, you're working on the kvishas yetze even on Shabbos, and that will certainly help during the week. Is one of the Rishonim talking that the 3 seudas are there to give us a sense of control. So Lamaisa, we have to say that achila gasa is unthinkable. Let's not talk about it, but yezichan ayoytza. If someone says, I have no appetite to eat seudah Shlishis, so we'd say, eat a kabeya, we'll soon see, that's the minimum, and that's the best thing. If he can't do that either, then tagima, cake, but it shouldn't be holding that in that situation. The person should eat with a cheshbon, appreciate the 3 seudas, and leave room to have the third seudah l'teyavim. Moving on to the next group of questions, and that is the questions about noshim, because for men you have to go to shul, so you're up anyhow. But women, they fall asleep after the seudah, wake me up for Havdalah, But we have to wake up for shaloshseudos. So the emes is, in Pashtus, there's no difference men or women. First of all, the pasuk hayoim is men and no difference men and women. Rabbeinu Tam in Seif HaYosha says women are chayiv in 3 seudas af hein hayah b'yisanes, like them on. The most simple pshat is zacha v'shamar. Whoever's chayiv in Shmira Shabbos is chayiv in Mitzvah Shabbos. And Taka, the Ran in Masechta Shabbos says, for that reason alone, women are chayiv in the 3 seudas. You're chayiv in keeping Shabbos, you're chayiv in Kiddush, and 3 seudas. And in Shulchan Aruch, in the end of Reish Sadik Aleph, the Machab has a very short sif, Nashim Chayavais B'Seudah Shlishis. The Taz says, because 3 hayoims. Magen Avram says, because all Shabbos, men and women are equal. And Kiva Eiga tells us, Rabbeinu Tam Svara, Afen Ha'iba'isanes. So it's as pashut as can be, 3 reasons, Machaba, that women are chayiv like men. You'll say some women don't, so it's a good kasha. The Aruch HaShulchan asked this question, and he says the eitzah is, notify them that they have a chiyuv. Not much of a heta. Lamaisa, that's halacha b'li chaylik. Children, hegiel chinuch, so it's an opportunity. I guess the best chinuch is do as I do. If parents show devotion to the third seudah, do as I do is better than do as I say. So, but definitely there's no difference, men or women, regarding the third seudah. Now, sometimes the women have a problem. We don't have lechem mishnah. So, first of all, the Machabes says, Nashim Chayabas in Seuda Shlish, the halachos says, and also in lechem mishnah. But if they don't have it, so if you don't have it, it's not ma'akiv, it's only a ma'ila. I should mention, if a person doesn't have lechem mishnah, by Seuda Shlish, there's another tzad to be meko. The Shiboli Aleket, one of the Rishonim in Simon Tzad the Gimel, he says, quoting his brother, that could be there's no chiyuv lechem mishnah by the third seudah, even for men. Because think about it, why do we have lechem mishnah? Because the one fell double. So Tainit, Shiboli Aleket's brother, Friday morning they had one of the lachmim. Friday night they had 3 left. Shabbos day they had 2 left, lechem mishnah. And came the third seudah, they only had 1. So if they didn't have lechem mishnah, why should I? And he holds there's no chiyuv for anybody of lechem mishnah. Now, of course, the obvious problem with this reasoning is we don't do like they did by each seudah, but right, we don't have 3 lechem Friday night. The teretz is we learn from the man that a seudah needs 2. So there's no difference third seudah or first seudah. And that's why the Machabes says in the end of Reish Tzadik Aleph Daled, Tzarech leftzaya al shtei kikreis, even for the third seudah. Okay, a question I'd like you to think about, because it's negeya. Let's say a person, a man or woman, they come to a Seuda Shlishis, there's only 1 bilkala left, the shalem. So the Shmir HaShabbos in Nun Heya or Nun Vav says it might be kedai, before you make a moitzi, to break the shalom in half and make the moitzi on 2 pieces of challah. At least you have lechem mishnah. Lechem mishnah primarily means double. 2 pieces is double. You're giving up the mile of shalom regarding a bracha. That's a mile. But lechem mishnah is based on a pasuk. And I bemis the Meishav Dava, the Netziv, and the Tzimnach Chaf Aleph, says, no doubt about it. If a person comes home or in shul, there's only small piece of challah, not shleimim, pick up 2. The only thing is that Minchas Yitzchak and Chelik Yud Chav Dalet says, if you have a lechem in front of you to break it, maybe is wrong. Which Grad the Shmir Shabbos is right. But no doubt about it, if there's no shleimim, take 2 shvar. The main thing is to have a double dumyad, the Mishnah. So certainly there's no reason to say if I don't have lechem mishnah, I can't have shaloshseudos. It's not ma'akiv l'chol days. Some days not needed, but definitely 2 broken pieces has much of the significance of lechem mishnah. The next question is, what's the minimum amount to eat to be yotzeh the Seuda Shabbos? Primarily, of course, Seuda Shlishis. Now, the real question is someone that's full, but he can manage. Someone that doesn't have a tolerance to wheat, he can eat a little bit, but tell me the exact minimum, no more. So the emphasis is regarding all mitzvahs achila, stam achila, the kazayas. The mitzvah of matzah, mora, is a kazayas. More so regarding kiddush, seudah, we know that if you make kiddush in shul, kiddush makam seudah, it suffices with the kazayas. So maybe we'll say Seuda Shabbos also. A person that's allergic, eat a kazayas. A person that's full, eat a kazayas. And there are Rishonim, the Rav in Sif Aleph brings Rishonim, that you yotzeh with the kazayas. But if you remember, I quoted earlier, Lashon Shulchan Aruch, even someone that's full, eat a kabeya. Vikum ta kabeya. So that svar is very pashut. This is not a mitzvah's achila. This is a seudah. A kazayas is not a seudah. It might be achila, it's not a seudah. A kabeya resembles svia. Now, the real svia, v'chalta v'savata, is much more. But minimally, the Paiskim say that a kazayas is achila, but it's not a seudah. A kabeya, Magen Ram says kabeya plus, has a seudah dimension to it. Zok te machza shekel. Why you yotzeh kiddush makom seudah with a kazayas? So that's different, because some hold that even if yotzeh with a kais of yayin, it's just to give some type of achila. But in Seuda Shabbos, don't forget the Mechaba holds less than a kabeya, not yotzeh. Magen Ram says kabeya plus to give it a kviyas. Now the emphasis, there's another reason that a person should have a kabeya by every seudah, because in halachos Netilas Yadayim Kuf Nun Ches, you don't make a bracha on Netilas Yadayim unless you have a kabeya. So people impulsively wash, make a bracha. They're not eating a kabeya, then you shouldn't make a bracha. So lamaisa, that's why it's more than just advisable, it's halacha. The Shulchan Aruch says you have to eat a kabeya, sai mitzad seudah Shabbos, and sai mitzad netilas yadayim. Now, unfortunately, this is negeya more than we'd like it to be. Not only shaloshseudos. Friday night in the land of affluence is so much to eat. People nibble like the birds on Parashat B'Shalach. A little piece of chal here, a little piece of chal here. They don't have a kazayis with their achilas pras. Koshkin a kabei they don't have. You have a problem with benching, with eating without a bracha rishayna on the foods. Minimally, you have to have a kazayis b'gdei achilas pras. And we try to have a kabeya, but at least a kazayis. So it's definitely advisable. I can't say it's halacha, but after you wash, make sure you have a kabeya of pas, and then you're ready for the rest of the seudah. Now, I want to make a point that a kabeya is not that much. Now, let me tell this to you very clearly. Go home today, take a extra large egg, and that amount is more than a kabeya. How do I know? A kabeya is the size of an egg. But it says beya beininus. So Moshe says in America there are 5 grade eggs. Small, medium, large, extra large, and jumbo. So a beya beininus is large, not extra large. According to the Chazon Ish, it's beya b'loi klipasa. So a large egg without the shell is enough. Okay, so the Mishnah Berurah says biklipasa. Fine. So take an extra large egg, visualize that, and you'll realize that a half of a small bilka is daiva haisa kabeya. The big bilkas, you have plenty, but the smallest bilka, half of it is enough, probably even less. But a half of a small bilka is a kabeya. So what's so hard? We confuse Shabbos with Pesach. You have to eat a yam of kazeisim, so we get nervous. But again, a half a bilka, if not less, is a kabeya. If you don't know how to mashayit, visualize a large chicken egg. That's all you need. Moving on, Lamais, I should mention, if someone will ask me, I'm allergic, I can't tolerate wheat, but I'll eat, tell me the minimum amount. So I would have to tell them, some hold a kazayis is enough. Mechaber doesn't say that, but if you have no eitzah, a kazayis might be enough going to some shittas. But if you do that, don't make it into a dayim when you wash. The next group of questions is the time to have shaloshseudos. Before chatzos, after shkia, and everything in between. Someone asked me he wants to go to the hospital to visit a chayla, and it worked out. There's a minyan for Mincha, but there's no shaloshseudos in the hospital. So he wants to eat before he leaves, before Mincha, or before chatzos. B'kitza, what is this zman lechatchelo b'diavad for the seudah? So the emes is, we would say, why should it be a zman? It's based on the pasuk 3 hayoms, eat 3 seudos. So you have to have night, day, afternoon, mechatesa. And a little of a raya, not much, but a little of a raya could be, the Ramah says in Sif Aleph, that if a person was sick Friday night and couldn't eat, Shabbos morning he has to have 2 seudos, 3 altogether. So you see you could have the night seudah by day. So why can I have the afternoon seudah before chatzos and shalosh before chatzos? Like what's wrong? And the emes is there are Rishonim, the Rashba, and the Ran that say beferish that it's the ikis 3 seudos, sachako. Eat it at your convenience. However, from the Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Yud Ches, the Gemara says Mincha. If Chalil is a fire, Mincha you're allowed to be matzil seudah achas. So Rashi, Taisus, the Rosh, and the Mordechai, and that Gemara all say from this Gemara is obvious that Mincha has to be eaten in the afternoon. Before, it has to be eaten before, in the afternoon. If you eat it before chatzos, a half hour after chatzos, you're not yoytz even with the evet. The Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos Lamed Siman, Perek Siman Sif Tes, it has to be achas arvis, achas shachas, achas mincha. Zogt Agoyis Maimini, and listen to this. He adds, quoting Rabbeinu Tam, that you can't be yoytz if you have shaloshseudos before chatzos. The Magen Mishnah points to others that argue. So we have a machlokes gedoyle rishonim. If you had a shaloshseudos before chatzos, if you yoytze even b'diavad. Now, what's the pshat taka? The chayre 3 seudos is 3 seudos. What do you care when I eat it? So the Aruch HaShulchan says in Mistavra it's 3 different parts of the day. The Lavush points out maybe it has to do with the davening. You daven Ma'ariv, night seudah, Shachris, day seudah, Mincha, then shaloshseudos. So it means to break it up like the davening. But I was thinking maybe this is another golden Rabbi Tam l'shitosei. Rabbi Tam was worried more than the rest of us that you're not going to have an appetite for the seudah Shlishis. If you're going to have before chatzos nach dazu, where's your einig? So he, l'shitosei, that says you have to have an appetite, he insisted don't eat before chatzos, eat after chatzos. Because again, the shaloshseudos is at risk. That's what's the most problem. But I must tell you that according to the Shulchan Aruch passed like most Rishonim, if you had shaloshseudos before chatzos, actually half hour after chatzos, you're not yoytze the mitzvah. Now, we said if you missed the night seudah, you're allowed to have it by day. There's his pashut. That's not the ikad din, that's a tashlumin. If you miss Ma'ariv, you daven 2 shachris, right? Ma'ariv is not time of shachris. Tashlumin is different. And that's taka why I should mention the Sharatzi and Reish Ayin Dalti Tkot and Ches, quoting Chemed Moshe, he says you can't be yoytze eating the night seudah by day unless it's an oynis gomel, because it's the wrong time. And if a person didn't feel well, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, what should he do? But it's not an eitzah unless it's an oynis gomel. So you can't ask me from tashlumin to ikadadin. And the Shulchan Aruch and Reish Sadik Aleph Beis stresses this, that if you ate before 6.5 hours, in other words, a half hour after chatzos, you're not yoytze seudah Shlishis. So now we have a problem. A few months ago, we had our Pesach Shechal b'Shabbos, and we ate the 3rd seudah quite early. And the emphasis, like the Rosh and the Tshuvas, Chav Beis Dalid, and other Rishonim, we weren't yoytze with that. In fact, the Ramah that goes the Shita Shulchan Aruch and you're not yoytze, in Hilchas Erev Pesach, Taf Mem Dalid Aleph, he says, Erev Pesach, don't forget to eat shaloshseudos in the afternoon, have mini targima. He doesn't mention our eitzah. So why are we eating chal, especially it was difficult? The Torah Zakta Magen Avram, in the beginning of Taf Mem Dalid, since some hold you yoytze anytime, I told you earlier, some say it's any 3 ayoms, so try to do the best you can. But that's not sufficient. Because the most sheet is you on yoytze. And we taka tanza beidach. We eat pas before Seif Man Chametz, and then in the afternoon we have tagima. But no one should say that if you didn't, I know someone didn't wash twice, I can't be machshadach with him, chas v'shalom. Like most shitas, you're not even yoytze. I knew a great tzaddik, a mat cheshuav, zechayim levracha. Chavis Chaim of our day, they said, he told his Aiden he can't wash twice in a short Erev Pesach Shabbos. To bench in Sveimo. He's afraid he wouldn't bench properly. The eating was okay, the benching was the problem. As I eat, and the emphasis is the goyim. The Berurah quotes the goyim to chaperah in the first seudah early, in the shaloshseudos early, to be yoytze some shitas. But again, in the Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't exist. The Aruch Shulchan adds, basically, and this is the side that Lamaisa could be there was no chiyuv shaloshseudos on Erev Pesach b'Shabbos because it's not shaykh. You can't have pas, it's too early, and later is only tagima. So Lamaisa, as we said, the poskim say try to do the best you can, but if someone missed it or someone can't do it, avada, there's an eitzah to have tagima in the afternoon. The next question is there an inyan to have it after Mincha? So the emphasis, it certainly sounds good. Night, Ma'ariv, seudah. Morning, seudah. Mincha, seudah. That sounds great. But the question is it taka l'halacha? So Reiz Apella, the Ramah in Siv Beis, quoting Rabbeinu Tam Grada, another Rabbeinu Tam, but this is not part of Al Shitasei, but he quotes Rabbeinu Tam, that's that Tais and the Rush quote. Rabbeinu Tam was very worried about drinking water Shabbos after Shkia until nightfall. Now this is interesting, we spoke about this once. Many people are makbid, mamish, not to drink water. Some people never heard of it, but that's a different share. I'm not going to get into that now. But Rabbeinu Tam, Taisus in the Rosh quote Rabbeinu Tam, was makbid not to drink water from Shkia until after Havdalah. And therefore, Rabbeinu Tam insisted you should have shaloshseudos before Mincha. So you can drink all the water you want, and you won't get involved with sveikis in sakana. And the Ramah in Siv Beis, Reish Aleph, quotes this Rabbeinu Tam. So no one could say it's you're not a yoitziv you have shaloshseudos before Mincha if Rabbeinu Tam L'chatchila had just that. But the emes is that there is a cheshbon to have shaloshseudos after Mincha. First of all, halacha de cheshbon, you're not supposed to have a seudah before Mincha. So why are you washing before Mincha? Now, Rabbeinu Tam held, obviously, a seudah ketana, you're allowed to have before Zman Mincha. And shaloshseudos typically is a seudah ketana, no problem. But at the end of the day, the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos Lamed, Siman Ois Yud, the Rambam paskins to have Mincha and shaloshseudos, and Zokta Goyis Maimini. This is based on the Gemara, and also because of the halacha not to be kavei seudah before Mincha. The Seuda Hayoim, maybe a shtickle Kabbalah, he says also to have the seudah after the davening, the Aruch HaShulchan writes beferish and Sif Talid, al pi Kabbalah to have Mincha before shaloshseudos. Okay, so of course Kabbalah is Kabbalah, but mi'ikad the din, avada, if you have seudah Shlishis before Mincha, yoytza. It's a preference al pi Kabbalah. The Ramah says yoytza toiv v'spal al Mincha tchila v'chein hagan l'chatchila b'chol medinais elu. So definitely the minig in Klal Yisrael is to eat shaloshseudos after Mincha, but Dr. Mishnah, if it's difficult, avada could eat before Mincha. The Aruch HaShulchan, who quotes Kabbalah, says, but if you can't do it, eat before Mincha. Now, what do you mean you can't do it? So I told you, someone asked me, he has to go to a hospital, mitzvah b'kechaylim, but he won't have shaloshseudos there, so he shouldn't eat after Mincha. There you could have Mincha, but no shaloshseudos. So eskazun to eat at home. Or someone has a wonderful shir between Mincha and Ma'ariv, and he said, I can't miss my shir. Should I eat shaloshseudos before I come to Mincha? The answer is yes. Torah is Torah. Yeah, you're yoitza. Or a question where someone's out of town and you don't have minyanim all over the place. The Mincha is far from his house. There's no shaloshseudos, and what should he do? Eat before Mincha. Of course, if someone is very makbid to wash early, after close to Shkia, and he missed his regular minyan, and by the time he finishes davening, it's going to be too late for him to wash. So again, we tell him, wash before Mincha. It's not ma'akiv. The Orlatzian and Chaf Aleph Zayin points out, Yontiv Shechal B'Shabbos. So if you remember, many people have the seudah, Mincha, and then they have seudah Shlishis. Let's say you missed the Mincha. So should you daven Mincha b'chidus, and then eat seudah Shlishis after Mincha? Chas v'shalom. Again, the same point, it's a hiddur, but no more than a hiddur. What's a very challenging question is, what's the latest time for seudah Shlishis? You know, before Chatzais we did. After Mincha we did. Let's say it's late. So here we have to be respectful for Klal Yisrael, and you have to realize that a big part of Klal Yisrael always wash late, or better yet, always wash bizman, daven mincha bizman, Rabbeinu Tam. So if you're davening a mincha, and afterwards it's still yoim, you're allowed to wash. We're talking about those that will not daven mincha after shkia, based on their shittis. It's too late. So do we say hu adin, if you don't wash after, if you don't daven mincha after shkia, you don't wash after shkia. So Pashas will say, it makes sense. If it's too late for Mincha, it's too late for seudah Shlishis. And Taken Ma'aser Rav of the Goy in Kuf Mem Ches, the Goy was very makbid to daven Mincha early, to wash early. The Chazinish in Dina Van Hagas Yud Gimel told someone, if you missed Shkia, don't wash after Shkia. However, there is a big makam lahakol. As early as the Mishnah Berurah, Reish Tzadik Tes Aleph, yes, the Mishnah Berurah that writes not daven Mincha after Shkia, he says, Bevadai, the person was delayed, Bevadai tzarech lechol afilu achashkia, and he says you could even eat, even if you had a child, you'll be hungry, but listen to this, Ein lahachmir ad chatzi shah shekoyim teisik gechav. Unless it got so late that it's a half hour before Vadei Laila, you should, as Lashon is, Bevadai tzarech lechol. The same, Mishnah Berurah says not daven mincha, he said you can wash so late. Rabbi Aaron said you can wash up to 50, not 15, 50 minutes after Shkia. The Tshuva, Rav Sternbuch and Beis Reish Gimel quotes the Brisker Rav saying his father, Rab Chaim, washed for shaloshseudos after Shkia. Now, what's going on here? The Aruch HaShulchan and Reish Hadik Tes Aleph, who was always very makbid with Mincha, he says you could also wash same half hour before night. Ma nishtana. So you think about his pashut. Mincha is totally in day. Once it becomes Vadei Laila, the Goyin held, Safik Laila, it's a Safik Bרכו Vatala. So it's too late. Because not day. It's not your wrong time. shaloshseudos is totally in Shabbos. So what do you care if it's night? We have Friday night seudah at night. So the whole question is, who cares if it's night? As long as it's Shabbos, ichlu ayoin. Now, if you're talking, you're washing during a Tosefes Shabbos, so that itzumah shel yoin, like the Sefer Chassidim said, you can't eat the seudah on an early Shabbos because not itzumah shel yoin. So you get beyond, zman of Matzoi Shabbos, it's too late. But a half hour after Shkia, it's Vadei Shabbos. B'yesa bi or b'yesa gishmak. You ever wonder? We have to make sure we have 100 brachas on Shabbos because we have a deficit. We don't have the long Shemon Esrei. The benching that I benched by a regular shaloshseudos already after the Zman, what is that counted to? The Me'ah brachas of Shabbos or Sunday? It's already 20 minutes after the Zman. Teretz is, most poskim hold, the Shabbos is Shabbos. So that's why I want to be very clear. If your minig is like the Chazon Ish and the girl to wash before Shkia, ashrecha v'toivlach. If your minig is to wash after your mincha, like the Beit Tam, ashrecha v'toivlach. If someone will ask me, I don't have much of a minig, I've been delayed, should I wash now? It's 20 minutes after the Shkia. I'll just echo what Mr. Brewer says, up to a half hour before it says wash. Rabbi Aaron said 50 minutes. Now, you have to realize, so where did Mr. Brewer get a half hour before it says? What's wrong about that? That has nothing to do with shaloshseudos. Once it's Zman, Ma'ariv and Havdalah, so you have Hilchas Havdalah, Ma'ariv that kicks in. But the seudah Shlishis is not limited like Mincha is. Now, of course, the Tzais HaShulchan and Tzadik Daled Vav points out in Eretz Yisrael, don't go with a half hour before it says. There's much less time in between. I know of two Gedolei Yisrael that were giving shiurim by conventions that I attended, and they were right before Mincha, and it was time to get late, and they started sending messages. We're going to miss Shkia for washing. So they both said, Talmud Torah is doicha, and you can wash after Shkia. So I'm not saying who, but I'm just telling you it's something that you can understand that the tzad kula here is not a tzad kula. It's the time as long as it's Shabbos. Now, the really challenging question, I'll leave to the Olam, but let's say a person has 5 minutes left to the Soif Zman, his Soif Zman. Now, I'm leaving that up to you. You can decide what you want. You have 5 minutes until you can't daven Mincha or wash for shaloshseudos. And you're not such a speed reader that you could do both. What should you do? Mincha or seudah Shlishis, and you can't think for too long because I only have 4.5 minutes left. So what would you do? So we would say, what's the shayla? How could you give up Mincha? That's what I would say. But you think about it, in Cheshbon it's not pashut. Because tefillah, like most shittas, d'Rabbanan. Certainly Mincha is not a d'Oraisa. Shaloshseudos, like many shittas, is d'Oraisa. Mincha you have a tashlumin. Shaloshseudos you don't. But how could you give a Mincha? So make sure you're on time. But someone said, if I ate, I could do sharaba, maybe I'll use that as my second, and my day suit as the third. Again, it doesn't work unless you add das. Now, what's pashit, if an isha who always davens mincha wakes up late and she has 5 minutes, then for sure we tell her to have seudah Shlishis. Because she's zicha chayiv in seudah Shlishis. Mincha, even if you hold she's chayiv in tefillah, who said mincha? Not necessarily. So that's easier to deal with. Now, someone asked me, the same person that he said he had no appetite, I'll learn instead. Okay, so the truth is learning is wonderful, but you can't learn instead of shaking lulav. But he said, I heard epis, you could be yoitza shaloshseudos with learning. Let me tell you about that epis. The Magen Avram in Taf Mem Dalet Beis quotes from the Zoya that Shimon Bar Yochai ate, it was yoitza shaloshseudos with limud HaTorah. So if it's good for him, it's good for me, he said, right? Okay, so first of all, yesh l'chalik. If Shimon Bar Yochai is probably a step above you. Shabbos Yud Aleph, he was so much Torah-dik that he didn't have to daven, terasum nasai. So if he did it, doesn't mean I could do it. At least I can do it. That's number one. Number two, the Shlach Kodesh writes he was by learning in Yonei shaloshseudos, Neshalma Parms Vaseinu. But the main point he missed is, the Magen Avram quotes this in Taf Mem Dalet. Why not in Reish Tzadik Aleph? The teretz is Pashit, because he only was Yoytze Seudah Shlishis with learning on Erev Pesach Shechal B'Shabbos, where there is no real good option. The Aruch HaShulchan in Taf Mem Dalet Vav goes to the extent to say that shaloshseudos on Erev Pesach Shechal B'Shabbos is like Seudah Shabbos on Yom Kippur. There's no such chiyuv. Oh, wow. He's right, because there's no good eitzah. No, so then Seudah Shlishis works with Torah. But how do we rely on a regular basis? So that's why the Raya from Shimei Chai has no shaykhs to us. We do mitzvahs, we learn, and of course, amanas lasos. Yom Tiv Shechal B'Shabbos is interesting. When that happens, it's always tricky. You have to have a seudah, but Yom Tiv is coming, or Erev Yom Tiv Shechal B'Shabbos. So most people finish the seudah, or they break the seudah, they bentch, go to Mincha, and they come home, they have Seudah Shlishis. Now that satisfies all needs. It's afternoon, it's after Mincha, and that's the best eitzah. Now, however, some people are makbid not to daven Mincha Gedolah. I'm not going to get into that now, but that's a, there's a point of davening Mincha Ketan, not Mincha Gedolah. So what they do is, they don't daven Mincha early, they have a Seudah Shlishis in the afternoon. How could you eat before Mincha? There is especially Erev Yom Tiv or Yom Tiv, it has to be a Seudah Ketana, there's no problem. So as always, it's Eilu ve'Eilu divrei Elokim Chayim. Some people, in fact, daven Mincha, Shabbos, Bizman, and have a small Seudah afterwards. Also, I can understand that because the Seudah Ketana is mutter. The last group of questions is the actual Seudah. I'll tell you a few fascinating shilas. Someone was by a Seudah Shlishis, and he wanted to have a dessert. In fact, he wanted to make extra brachos. He took out an apple and a chavez of watermelon and chocolate. He make 3 brachos. He thought, how can I eat now? It's very late. You're not allowed to eat after tzeis. I started eating, fine. But now already it's after tzeis, Matay Shabbos. So I said, that's a lot of Yiras Shamayim, but he made a mistake. Because when we make a bracha on dessert, it's not because it's a new seudah. You can't start a new seudah now. It's not a new seudah. A raya bentching pot is your dessert. So why do you make a bracha? Because the past pot is all meal-type foods that eat l'svaya. Dessert is not l'svaya. So you make a bracha rishayna, but it's certainly part of the seudah. So vivayt, you're allowed to eat everything else because you didn't bench. You're allowed to eat the dessert. I found Rav Sternbuch and Chelik Dalit Ayin Hey says this, and it's Pashat Kipsuta. Now, if a person benches ala kais by Seudah Shlishis, could he drink the kais if it's already tastes like Yakov? So there's a discussion about it, but the minig oilam is not to. Once it's laila, we don't drink from the kais. By Yeshever brachas, they do drink from the kais. That's different minhagim. But a regular Shabbos, you bench, but don't drink from the kais. Some got to do. I want to be respectful, but the minig is not to. So why am I using a kais? So at home, if you bench with a kais in yeshiva or a camp, you make havdalah on it, so you'll end up drinking the kais. Someone asked them, I shul, they never make havdalah. They take out a kais, they bench, put it back in the wine bottle. It's literally from Pesach to Pesach. They use the same revius for benching. So, l'chayra, if you're not drinking, what are you gaining? But Rav Oslin, Chelik Ches, Reish Mem Beis, says, don't be mavatal that minig. Because ein oim shir ala kais, you have a chshivas to the kais. So even if you don't drink it, I can't say it's wasting your time. Rather, some people, they don't drink it, they don't use it. But there's definitely a ma'ila. We had a question if someone did, let's say by Sheva Brachas, he drank the kais, and he says on Me'ein Shalosh, does he mention Shabbos? So this is interesting because the seudah is over and it's already tzeis. So the Shev Rakasi in Beis Kuf Chav Gimel says the minig is not to mention Shabbos. You're sort of, even though you didn't say Ma'av yet, but you finished the seudah and it says Sikachavim and you don't mention Shabbos in the Me'ein Shalosh. Now I want to make another point. We're talking about shaloshseudos. This will fast forward a few months to a summer Sheva Brachis, and the chasana was Sunday afternoon before Shkia. So the last day of Sheva Brachis, the last Sheva Brachis is by shaloshseudos. So without getting into the detail, the Satmar was very makbid that you can't make Sheva Brachis after Shkia. Because when Safik Laila upon him, whenever the Shkia is, but when you're getting to Safik Laila, he's chas. We started early afternoon, now we're going to say Ritzei, and it's still Shabbos. So the hezbollah is, it's still Shabbos, and you go bas as seudah, but you have no chassan. The chassan basically became back to civilian life. Because once his man is, he's over chassan. So you're right, you could sack a bench with Ritzei as late as you want. But there's no chassan. If there's no chassan, there's no Shever Brachas. Okay, some are makel, that you can allow to continue the Shabbos, but if you do things right, you should try to bench before the Zman, and then you can have the speeches and the dancing afterwards. A person asked this question, he said Baruch HaMavdil during Seuda Shlishis, he had to do malacha, and then he had to bench. Does he still say Ritzei? All he said is Baruch HaMavdil. So the Rav and Kuf Beches Zayin, or Chashochin and Kuf Beches Chav Gimel both say that if he said Baruch HaMavdil, that's enough of an Avdallah that he can't say Ritzei. Because that's pashut. If a person daven Ma'ariv, but then decided to bench, he forgot to bench, you can't say Ritzei, it's not Shabbos. That's pashut. L'idach Gisa, the Ber Moshe and Aleph Nun Hey says a person just answered Bרכו to a minion that's the express minion before he benched, then about he could say Ritzei because it didn't end Shabbos, it was an Aniyah Ba'alma. If a person that said Baruch HaMavdil, could he continue eating? Maybe he ready to eat Shabbos. So that's Mefurish. Mr. Brura says it actually is a bigger chiddush that as long as he didn't yet daven Ma'ariv, as long as it's still Shabbos, he can continue eating. And the Sharatzi and Sivkot and Chesed Beferish that he could still continue eating. Recently I was away for Shabbos and someone asked me this question. He was very rushed to leave after Shabbos, after the Zman. So what he did was, during shaloshseudos, he was very creative. He heard someone making Avdallah. So he ran and he heard Avdallah ala kais. He was yoyter Avdallah ala kais. So he came back and he asked, now, first of all, do I say Ritzei? Can I continue eating? And now that I said Avdallah, do I say Atachayin Antanu in Ma'ariv? So it's all very simple. First of all, if you already heard Avdallah, you zich can't say Ritzei, because it's after Shabbos. Could he continue eating? So this is the chiddush. It could very well be that, why not? It's basically, I don't know what his location is, but at the end of the day, he heard Avdallah already, so why can't he eat? But you know what the biggest pashtus is? That when he davens Ma'ariv, there's no doubt about it that he definitely says Atachayin Antanu. The Magen Avram and Reish Sadik Dalet Aleph says, the Ferish Gemara, that you do both. Don't forget, we do both every Matzah Shabbos. We don't rely on one without the other. The Ikat Akanta Zok the Magen Avram is Lahavdil B'Tfilah. So even though he's holding post Havdalah, and he doesn't say Ritzei, but Avadi says Atachayin Antanu in Shmoines. The last question is regarding shaloshseudos about Ritzei. So the emes is the Haina the Amri Inchi is Ritzei is not that important. That's absolutely incorrect. Let's make a cheshbon. We chayiv Adam in 3 seudas. So if you left out Ritzei the first 2 seudas, you have to re-bench. So why not in the 3rd seudah? And that's why the Torah in the end of Kuf Beiches says, like most shittas, you have to have pas. You have to bench over the Ritzei. It's only Rabbeinu Tam that holds you yaitz with cake that you yes to stop it. So what would we say? The Machabin Reish Sadik Aleph said that you have to eat 3 seudas and cake is not good enough. Who would hold you have to bench over? Frek the Bach, but the Machabin is Chsoisa. In Kuf Beiches Ches, he said that if you left that Ritzei, you're yaitza. Don't have to bench over. By us, in Reish Sadik Aleph, he said you have to have 3 seudas. Zok the Bach, be'emes, you should have to bench over. Because you don't eat, because you ate bread and you didn't say Ritzei. But since it's a sheet that you're not mechuyev to have pas, al tzafik brachas you don't say bench over. So it's not the pshat you don't have to say Ritzei. You know, someone told me he was once he had a long shaloshseudos at home, he was very late, he wanted to make Ma'ariv, so he skipped Ritzei on purpose. I said, that's wrong. The best eights would be finish early and go to shul on time. You can't skip Ritzei. B'diavad, you don't have to bench over. But let's say a person forgot Ritzei and he didn't start the bracha of Atayva Meitiv. So here we come to an important yesod. Basically, if you left out Yalviyavai on a Yom Tov, you have to daven bench over, or on a Shabbos morning, and you chat before you started the 4th bracha, you insert a new bracha, b'sicha and a chesima. And Taka the Paiskim say by shaloshseudos is no difference. If you chap before you started the fourth bracha, say the bracha b'shem u'malchus b'tchila b'soif. You'll say, but maybe there's no chi of pas, but it's not different than Rosh Chodesh. But here the Bialach in Kuf Peiches points out, Sif Yud, that if it's already after the Zman, don't make the bracha b'shem u'malchus. Because there's a whole shaila if b'chlal you add ritzei after the Zman. We go bust at Chila Seuda, but it's not so pashut. But in this case, don't add Shem Malchus. But listen to this chap that someone told me. He forgot the second seudah, he forgot to say ritzei. And people have an aversion to bench. They don't like to wash, they don't like to bench. To bench a second time, forget it. So he decided to make a chap. He wanted to use the Kedusha Rabbi in Shul that he did say ritzei and Amen Shalosh. He used that for the second seudah. And the big seudah in the house was the third seudah. And he's not chayav the bench over because you left out ritzei in the second, in the third seudah, you don't have to bench over. Zok the Stipel and Kilas Yakov Brachas Chafei and the Shmir Shabbos and Zayin Ha'or Lamed Beis, that's wrong. You could only use cake in the third seudah. You can't use cake in the second seudah. We have to bench over. I'm going to talk to you.
Shane English, I would like to thank Rabbi Smith for the wonderful share. Rabbi said there's a change in the daily schedule. Tuesday we'll have discussed to have a dying donor. We didn't have him a long time. This Tuesday we'll have a dying donor giving a share at 1:30. We asked them to join. Also, Rabbi said the Shovim project Baruch Hashem is running smoothly all over the world with hundreds of thousands even participating worldwide. We need the help of the tzibur to sponsor the shiur worldwide. Can I talk about schools and talas and mishpacha? These seudas and clouds are all over the world participating. Call Ign Sheter at 718-851-8651 or come to one of the Askonim. Sponsor the shiurim for Tarosim and Bishosim Shal Yisrael, which is the biggest schus to get the kinder. Yes, come to Bishvat. We need good Azisa Peiris. Eben shal bentching. Yes, good Azisa Peiris and a good gebench of Feilach Yor. Reb Chaim Lekal Shomar Kodesh Baruch Hu so wir hebeln teure mitzvah. Shenem an Rechomas mein Tzidke. Yaru Tev Yadeh. Amen.